Welcome back to the Bulkhead Project. Check out these walls. All right, welcome back to part 3 of the Bulkhead Project. Last we left off, we had just finished an epic pour of 10 cubic yards of concrete up against these walls. After the pour, when the concrete guy was leaving, he told me he was going to come back the next morning around 8 o'clock and start stripping the forms. When it got to be about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I hadn't heard from him, I started stripping them myself. So I've never stripped forms before, but I kind of figured it out pretty quickly. First, I had to remove all of the bracing that was holding up the forms, and then moved along the interior walls, removing all of the wailers and the forms themselves. So then we got out to the bulkhead area, which is actually a two-sided form. And again, I've never stripped forms, so I had to figure this out. So on a two-sided form, you have a form on either side, and there's rods that go through that the forms themselves latch onto and lock in place. That keeps the forms from buckling outwards when they fill up with concrete. After the pour's done, that little rod is still sticking out through the form. The way it works on the inside, we did one-sided forms, but the outside are two-sided forms, and they have these ties that go through the concrete. These little metal ties go all the way through to the other side and latch on to corresponding forms. And I just spent like an hour trying to get these apart. So you tap these hinges off. So you got these pins here keyed into this thing like that. But you can't just pull the form off because it gets hooked on that pin that's there. Pin's fatter here and it can't fit through there. And to get the latch off and to get those forms off, you have to snap off the little pin that's sticking out on each side of the form. There's got to be a simple way to do this, because when a form guy is taking forms off, he's not going to mess around with cutting, with saws and all that stuff. So it took me a while. I was trying to bend it. And then I realized, why is it shaped like that? And I thought it through, and I realized I've got the perfect tool here to break that off. So I don't know if this is how you do it, but this is how I did it. Give it a twist, and they come off. So now that those are out, the form will slide over those little broken nubs. Sorry if this is common knowledge, but I feel like a genius because I figured it out. So now you're left with these big spikes sticking out of the wall. And these are easy. Just take your hammer and just break off. So that's just something I learned today. And maybe it's something you learned today. I found out later that you could also use a crescent wrench to do this, and there's actually a special snap-off concrete tool that does the job as well. So here it is. This is what we ended up with, and it's totally amazing. This is like a bomb shelter. Obviously, we had to run the forms straight and plumb, but the walls that we were putting them up against were kind of wavy. So what we did was take the rock that was sticking out the furthest on each wall. We went a minimum of 8 inches thick on that part and put the forms out at that line. Now, some of these walls kind of snaked back in and kind of moved around. So there are areas of these walls that are almost a foot thick, or even a little bit more than a foot thick in some areas, but it's 8 to 10 inches thick. So we had the footing down below, and then we put 4-foot forms on top. We couldn't go any higher because then we wouldn't be able to get the concrete behind the form. So we have our walls, which are now, bomb-proof. Then we have a gigantic, these big, like 7 to 8 foot long granite slabs. They're at least 2 feet tall and probably a foot wide. But we were left with this strip of fieldstone that was exposed. So then I had to go back and point all those rough fieldstones above the concrete but below the granite. Boom! So that's what it looks like now. We have the granite, we have the wall, and we have pointed fieldstone here. So pretty much continuous barrier for rodents, water, air, everything is not going to get through this gigantic wall. All right, so after the interior walls were all finished being poured, stripped, and then repointed all the fieldstone above the concrete, we moved out to the bulkhead area. All right, so a tip for after you get your concrete walls poured and you have your metal ties coming through, after you break them off, that metal is a point of entry for water. And it's also a point of entry for that metal to rust, and then rust right through your wall and then ruin your concrete and let water in. So what I did is I chipped away a divot around where that metal tie was, and now I'm going to mud over it with hydraulic cement to seal that tight so water doesn't get in there. And I'm using hydraulic water cement. All right, so you wet your wall, and this is what I'm going to be mudding, are these little divots. Bulkhead has been sprayed down and dried with a propane torch. Everything's prepped, and now I'm going to coat it with waterproofing membrane. And I've been reading about waterproofing, and I found a product called Elastomulsion, which is a rubber product for waterproofing. So this should actually seal out all water from seeping through the foundation. Generally in this area, when someone pours a new concrete wall, they slap a bunch of asphalt on the outside, and that isn't really waterproof. It's kind of water resistant, but water can still just seep right through the asphalt. So I found a product that was actually waterproof. It was like a big 5-gallon tub of Plasti Dip. It was super sticky to work with, but it went on. I put 2 thick coats on, and then we had a really nice rubber coating on the outside of the bulkhead. And yes, I know the fieldstone is not coated, but I'm not digging out my walls and painting my fieldstones. So this is gonna have to do for now. Stuff's a bit sticky. And I only used about 1/3 of a pail. Awesome. Once that had set up, it was time to backfill. Okay, so the insulation is not for insulating purposes. We're about to backfill the hole. And as you can see, we have some rocks, and I just spent several hours putting this rubber membrane on the outside of the foundation, and I really don't want it to get whacked with rocks and scratched all up. So the reason we have this here is a little buffer to protect from rocks. All right, that's it for this episode. Next time we are going to get in here, we're going to prep the floor. We're going to be building a sump pit, drainage, a new door, the bulkhead, the stairs, and then the big reveal. So stay tuned. There's a lot more to come on the next episode. By the way, I hope you guys are enjoying this little series. There will be more projects and things coming up this summer. This is just a little taste of some of the stuff we do around here that's not bees or bread or tomatoes or garlic. So thanks very much for watching. I appreciate it. And if you did like this, thumbs up, subscribe, and all that stuff. So thanks very much. Have a great day.